program that they had. And we hope that we are looking for a good contest. And so NPP being ready for that contest is one that we look forward to. We'll do what we can to make sure we give the people the assurance that we have the best vehicle to be able to deliver what the country wants come December 7. And we are confident that the country will be able to trust us to be able to give us the opportunity to serve again.
And about that, concerns of Parliament lacking experience going into the next elections and the next Parliament, how is the NDC adapting to this scare that a lot of people have over the lack of experience in Parliament in the 9th session?
I think it's almost like a global issue at the moment. I'm watching the US at the moment, and it's even a push for them to be a term limit. Some candidates, some of the, for example, Republican candidates, are actually pushing that if they they want to become the president of the US, they will have a maximum 2-term limit. So I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. This situation where it appears so safe, it's only people who want to remain in Parliament forever who are capable of getting the experience. I don't particularly believe in it. I think what we need to rather encourage is to maybe push for a lot more people with experience to be entering Parliament. Parliament should stop being an avenue where young people who have never worked think that's the only way they also can get quick access to maybe some money, and therefore they have no experience and therefore they are rushing into it. It's not bad, but we need to be looking at a situation where you enter in public service from a position of experience, where you are bringing something to that public service. Having garnered experience in different places, you bring that experience now to benefit the public. It should also not be a place where maybe because you are broke, you are not maybe getting a job, or your job is bad and different. If once it becomes that, then there are massive limitations to that great office. So the experience issue, I think if we can get a lot more people coming with experience from different sectors, those experiences become critical. As for the day-to-day technicalities of lawmaking and stuff, I think generally that's why we have a good system there, clerks who are there who can assist you to be able to get it done. I don't need necessarily to be a legal person or to have every detail of how to make law before I can succeed in Parliament. If I come, let's say, from the position of maybe somebody from, let's say, for example, environment, I'm bringing that environmental understanding to the House and the committees in which I serve, and then also whatever the plenary conversation, then I benefit Parliament coming from that experience. So another person comes from different places. So we don't want a Methuselah who has been there forever, who claims to know everything. I personally don't think that's really the way to go. And what is coming across in the world, for example, talking about term limits, I think it's some of the ways we ought to go. I mean, I don't understand why people want to remain in Parliament forever. Africans, we tend to sometimes overdo some of these things, and I think we need to discourage it.
So talking about term limits, how, in your personal opinion, how long should an MP stay in Parliament?
I'm not saying I've advocated that. I'm just saying that is what's happening globally. And somebody can say the president can do 2 terms maximum. Why shouldn't MPs also have 2 terms maximum? But anyway, please don't go saying the NDC is proposing term limit, because I'm just broadening this conversation and saying what's happening globally, that people are even pushing towards that. So for me, I think it's much more an issue of trying to get into Parliament people who've got some experience and who can bring that experience to benefit the House and benefit the country.
Well, let's talk about, okay.
In this case, would you propose an amendment to the minimum age requirement to enter Parliament and also educational levels?
There again, I'm not necessarily saying that these things have to be law. I'm saying ideally you want to have Parliament where people are entering with experience. People are coming in with something that they want to bring, as opposed to people who are now coming to come and learn. It's not a place where you're coming to learn. It's a place where you're coming to give your experience to benefit the country. So as much as possible, especially the current crave where every young person who has had no experience, who have never even worked, is rushing to Parliament, I think NPP and NDC need to have a good conversation on that, so that we let Parliament ideally be a place where people are possibly, after they have served the country in different capacities, then they look at public service as a place where they want to now give their experience to benefit the country, as opposed to exactly what it is today, where it's looking pretty much like people are trying to use it as a means to an end. I'm entering Parliament hoping that I can become a minister. I'm entering Parliament so that me too I can become honorable member. I'm entering parliament hoping that maybe I can get money. Once those considerations are the reasons why people are entering the house, we are literally diminishing the house. The house should be a place where we actually augment capacity and help the country.
But lastly, from me, let's talk about corruption. So we've been 43, this is the fourth time. Do you think it is indicative of government's efforts in not fighting corruption? And while at that, we want to touch on the Commissioner General of the GRA, Reverend Amisha Dai's not wanting to put down his position.
I would say basically leadership is all. I mean, as you understand, leadership is all, especially when we are dealing with leaders who themselves, while they were in opposition, are made basically on a daily basis issues that had to do with corruption, that they were able to do much better. If you take leadership, you need to be able to show that your own commitment to that fight is so grand that you can take the country along with you. But if effectively, as we see, I mean, we have leadership that has become virtual clearing agents. I think somehow their understanding is that fighting corruption has to do with fighting it when it is your opponent and not when it's yourself. So if it were things that had to do with the opponent or those who are in power, I can tell you that they would have gone all out to try to make sure, I mean, everything is done to expose them. But as soon as it's something that concerns them, then it changes. And that must be something that we discourage. So I would say that fundamentally has been a big issue with this government. So leadership itself has been terrible, has been poor. They basically just use the opportunity to clear as many people as possible. And when the president continues to do that, the people working under him will not have any fear. But let me give you an example. President Rawlings, I mean, before he became president of this country, as head of state, a situation where his own nephew, direct blood, was involved in something he considered to be crime. He allowed the state to proceed, and that nephew was executed. Now, when you send a signal like that, the whole country knows that this leader is not messing around. You can be as close to him as possible. When you do what is wrong, he takes charge and makes sure that is done. That is where you show the example. But I wouldn't say that corruption is just a one-way traffic at all. Of course, the leadership has been absolutely terrible and abysmal in the way they've gone about it. But it's a much bigger conversation. And that's some of the things I was pointing to in my contribution before I left. That is a much deeper conversation. I think the society as a whole must have a real conversation about corruption. I think the whole, the refusal to what? I prefer not to rush into that conversation. I want to get a little more from, especially the members of my committee. I've not been fully abreast of all the facts, so let me not jump into that conclusion as yet. Yeah.
Would you say there is no talk going on between the party and the Electoral Commission on the use of indelible ink?
I would say that NDC, our position is clear. I mean, and on this score, I would say it's not just NDC. Incidentally, somehow NPP also seems to be on the same view, that when it comes to indelible ink, the position of the EC is wrong. So that's exactly how we're going to, we're going to put our foot down and ensure that that doesn't happen.
There was an IPAC meeting yesterday.
Yeah.
What did you agree on?
I would say broadly, the majority sided with the view of the NDC, and our view was that regarding the bringing forward of the date to November, it can be done, but only for election beyond 2024. So we take our time and do it properly so that the whole country can be brought on board, and we all prepare towards 2028 for that. But 2024 is definitely too early to be able to bring that change.
Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click on the bell for